how many people have you hired? How big is your team?
54.
How many have you hired to get to the 54?
120 maybe.
Okay, your numbers are way too low. So Dan Martell did an interview once with this guy who had just sold his software.
So we're not churning enough over.
Bro, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Dan Martell did this interview, and the guy was like, he bought his Ferrari, after he sold his company. Dan Martell's like, what did it for you? The guy said, my team. My team was the only reason I could get this done. Dan said, how many people are on your team? And let's say it was 100. Dan was like, how many people did you hire to get to that 100? And I'm pretty sure it was in the thousands, like thousands of people. What I've seen is 7-to-1 is like churn ratio. For like every 7 people I brought on, 1 would be good enough for me to want to keep. A lot of guys that I respect, that I look up to, the numbers that they'll kind of say would be 7-to-1 is churn to keep, 30-to-1 is like you find talent, and about 50 to 70-to-1 is like you'll find someone who can change the company. And so one of the things that I always was doing, and I've encouraged this for every company I work with, is just constant recruitment. Most people, the Hermosis will talk about this, like having a recruiting pipeline, the same that you do a client pipeline, right? And the way I did it personally was trying to bring people in through the setter department, because in most companies, the setter department's the cheapest way to do it. So you bring people in the setter department, and you'll find talent will almost naturally, like magnetically, find a place in a business just to stick to, even if it's not in sales in the slightest. And then you start giving them a little bit of like extra responsibilities and playing with it. And before you know it, some of the most talented people I've ever seen in different companies I've worked with started out as basic sales reps and then ended up running different divisions in operations or data or blank. And so it's really easy that way to bring in people at the lowest cost, because it's expensive. Hiring people, mishires, if you bring them on with salaries, et cetera, it's expensive. And so when you bring them on as commissioned setters, and then also give them kind of room, almost like a sandbox to play, you'll find really, really talented people. I'd say the problem, if you're, number one, you haven't actually hired enough to do a few things. You haven't hired enough to, number one, increase your baseline. Every single time you hire, and you can say this, having hired 120 people, your baseline gets better and better. 100%, and better. 1,000%. Yeah. The other thing it does too is it gives you, when you have a recruiting pipeline, the ability to lead your team more effectively. Because right now, there's probably a couple people on your team that would be hard to replace, if I had to take a guess. And what happens when they're hard to replace is they have leverage on you. And anytime someone has leverage on you, they don't necessarily have to work their ass off because they're kind of safe, right? And so there's always this tension that I want team members to feel, which is like, I have to earn my spot here because there's like 5 people that are trying to take my job and they're ready. Like it would take Paul a day to put someone in my job. But the reason I'm here is because Paul knows that like I bought in. And so constant recruiting has been like a big helper in that buy-in process. And then there's more on the hiring process and stuff that we can get to. But like,
it's ironic you said this, because we literally built this hiring pipeline like 6 weeks ago and started this whole process. And now we've got like lines and lines and lines of like setters, closers, editors, like everything. Yeah. And this is the whole thing I taught our mastermind is like, because for the same thing for us, I suddenly realized this is a problem. And now you can literally just drop people in and out that are ready to go. And it's making a massive difference.
Yeah. And then you can even get into like internships. This is something Ty does a lot, but like internship, like you bring on 10 people at once, different departments and such, and almost have like hiring bubbles, and just let them know that, hey, this is a 30-day, 20-day, 15-day unpaid internship, and just start seeing how people perform. Dude, 90% of the people that I brought on that didn't work in that 7-to-1 churn were gone within 20 hours. It's not like it was, I actually tell people, if for every company, Iman's company, every other company I've worked with in the space and my own, the first 7 days is called Hell Week, right? And so the first 7 days, realistically, like you're going to make it no less than a day, or I'm sorry, no more than a day if you're shit. And I can, just like you, I can recognize like bad employees in a heartbeat. And so realistically, all I'm trying to do is bring as many people as possible for the lowest cost possible, right? After I see they're good, I want to pay everyone as much as possible. Like I want to pay my team, but I don't want to pay out of the gate heavy, because then my hiring would just be so expensive. And so I find ways, sometimes it's internships, sometimes it's through the commission center stuff. Sometimes, sometimes people say I'll work for free, blah, blah, blah. I don't tend to do that stuff, but I'm trying to always find ways to get as much work as possible. Not for free, but at the lowest cost possible. So I can see how they do that, or like at least approach it. And then from that, I can spot talent pretty quickly. Normally hiring is the one thing. Even Dan Martell still does, like, I have a buddy, James, we were talking about it.
Yeah.
He was DMing Dan, obviously a setter, but then Dan actually called him. Bro, like this is a guy who might be a sales rep or something, and Dan's still vetting. And so hiring is the one thing I don't take myself out of too fast.
Where do you personally go and try and find like the best A-player talent?
the question of like the world, bro. It's like, where do you find talent? So I think that's probably one of the most powerful things about brand. Specifically, I want my brand to be that I am a smarter guy. Not a smarter guy, let me rephrase. I want my brand to be that we do smart things. And the reason for that is because I think smart people will be attracted to that, right? And so, example given, take someone who goes viral on TikTok and is a crypto guy and such, but there's no real like character.
There's no substance behind it.
There's no substance, yeah. We call it the give a damn factor. There's nothing to give a damn about the guy. I don't think they're going to attract top tier talent. I think they're going to attract a lot of people who want to get rich quick. And so realistically, I think the first part about attracting talent is you have to be someone people attract to who they are. It's called similarity bias or something, but who they feel similar to. And so realistically, if you want to attract top tier talent, you have to show that you are top tier talent and people want to work with the best in the world. The second thing you have to do is you have to have like a world-class mission. And so what's your mission statement for your company?
Our mission statement is to help trainers create financial freedom, essentially.
Okay. That's not bad, but the thing is that it has to be, it has to be bigger, right? Okay. So Elon Musk is literally, I'm going to paraphrase different ones, but to live on Mars is like part of, I think, SpaceX's mission statement. Lego, like the toys, that's my favorite. To empower the builders of tomorrow through the power of play today or something. Yeah. But they're like never ending massive problems that the world, like if you do this, the world changes. I would say if you help, financial or trainers make financial freedom, the world doesn't really change too much, So I'd say like, how do you make the world change? And then even further than that, do you do any philanthropy to
not yet.
But even so, what's in mind? So a good mission always has philanthropy on the back end to actually put. Have you ever watched Shark Tank? That's the first question they always ask. Like, what do you donate to, or how do you give? Blah blah blah. Have you what would you? It's even hard to think about how you would make a philanthropic arm for that mission statement. No,
100%.
And so the mission followed by the philanthropy, followed by how you guys act toward that, then the core values and everything like that. That's what alongside you being a brand of someone that people want to work with because they can see that you're sharp. Like I can tell you're sharp in a heartbeat. I haven't seen your content, but I'm sure that it's going to show the exact same thing. And so that alongside I'm on a mission to do this, that's how you attract top tier talent. I don't think you can go on Indeed or LinkedIn or blah, blah, blah. The other thing too is once you get big enough, hire someone who's just a world-class recruiter. Good recruiters know the best talent in the world. It's an expensive role, but it's 100% worth it.